Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Hitting for the Cycle. I'm your host, Ben Kruse, alongside my co host here today, David. Hope you guys, really quickly before we get started, happy holidays. Obviously, the day this recording, it's Christmas Eve. And obviously, it's a very busy time of year. I know, obviously, one of my other co hosts, Ryan, is not with us today, but, I definitely wish him definitely a happy holidays and appreciate him for everything throughout this year, doing a lot of these great episodes. And Dave, really appreciate you being able to come on the network now and really being a part of something special that we got going here today. So before we get started into all of our socials and stuff like that, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Just getting, I had a little bit of a cold or some sort of like bug going on, but feeling better. Like
Mhm.
I like cough today. I just said I have some more here too, but I'm overall I'm good. But just trying to get rid of this last lingering effects of a mini cold I have.
Yeah, I feel like everybody's kind of getting over through something. It's a time of
Right.
year. I've been battling with cold stuff the last couple weeks here. I always try to manage everything. My
Yeah.
parents and my brother, my sister lives at some point, and everybody. So definitely. Hopefully, you guys stay healthy, stay safe.
Mhm.
This is a big time of year. I'm going to be traveling coming on Friday with family. So I'm really excited to get away a little bit and definitely enjoy the rest of 2025. All right, but obviously, we got some stuff to talk about now. So before we get started, make sure to follow us on Empty the Bench podcast network here at ETB Network. Also, just make sure to follow us down here on the ticket bar down below at Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Also, follow us at Hitting for the Cycle across social media at HFTC ETB, which of course you can find right here on the ticker here in front of us. And then, of course, make sure to follow um, youtube.com/ETB network, where you guys obviously will find that. And yeah, that's basically it. Because obviously our form response that we have is unfortunately not with us anymore. So we'll just kind of keep it at that. So, David, let's get over onto the overall program. And in terms of folks, what we're going to be talking about in terms of the program is basically pretty much what the MLB stuff is going to be a lot of the offseason. And that's basically just a lot of the moves that basically been transpiring. Um, you know, our last show, we ended up doing me, David, and Ryan. We talked about basically kind of predicting what the moves specifically that we definitely could see happening around the league. And then obviously it's been kind of going off from there. So we're very excited kind of breaking down a lot of these moves, some moves specifically that we've already kind of mentioned on our last topic that last show that we kind of talked about. And obviously now, we're going to kind of talk about all the latest stuff from here. So we're going to kind of go by division, I think, David, just
Yeah.
because there's so many specific teams. So I'm going to start with the AL East and just kind of work my way down. So we're going to start with the Toronto Blue Jays. So the Toronto Blue Jays obviously were runners up last year in the 2025 season. They obviously added Dylan Cease, which of course we talked about. Me and Ryan kind of agreed that it was kind of an overpay, but regardless of the fact, it's a pretty good addition for the Toronto Blue Jays to kind of help, add for their rotation. And a couple other like side moves that they did add. They added Tyler Rogers, the submariner reliever from the Mets, who did pretty well last year. Really good against ground balls, and the Blue Jays have a very good defense. So I like that. They also added Cody Ponce, who is a guy from I think the Korean League or whatever, and
Mhm.
they added another guy in a trade named Chase Lee. A couple of the other free agents, obviously Chris Bassett is still out there. He's got kind of a guy in the mid-tier market, which the mid-tier market is kind of still like settling. It's not crazy right now. Obviously Bo Bichette, who's obviously one of the big time guys out there. And then you have a couple other guys, Sir Anthony Dominguez, who's a pretty good arm. You got Ty France, and other names as well too. So really quickly, what's your overall thoughts in terms of how the Blue Jays have done? At least to me, I think that they're just going to keep on getting better. And it also wouldn't be shocking if they would make a run for Kyle Tucker because I think that's obviously one of the bigger guys they're looking for.
I like the moves they made. I thought the Cease one was like we talked about was an overpay. The one move with Toronto I'm still curious about is the holding of Bo Bichette. Like, I'm surprised they haven't like unless they're trying to figure out salary cap or they figure well not salary cap, but figuring like do they have like a limit with like the tax thing where the payroll's too high if they sign Bichette? I know they were also talking at one point about getting Ketel Marte from Arizona in a trade and maybe helping out the second base shortstop situation. I Toronto to me still is kind of I don't know. I guess for me, I mean their move's been fine. I guess fillers here and there, but I guess I'm just waiting to see are they finally going to pull the trigger on Bo Bichette in terms of like signing him, or are they just going to let him walk? Like, is it too much money, too many years, both? It's interesting with them.
Yeah, I do think when it's all said and done, I think Bichette definitely has going to have some suitors out there besides Toronto. I mean, it wouldn't be shocking if obviously my Red Sox going to be looking at him. Of course, if we don't get bring back Alex Bregman, and then obviously the Braves could be another team specifically that needs some help in the mid part of the infield. But we'll have to see about that. All right, let's go to next to the other team, next to the AL East, and that is the Baltimore Orioles. Um, there is still some free agents out there: Zach Eflin, Jorge Mateo, Gary Sanchez, and Tomoki Sugano, who is part of the rotation. He had some pretty good things last year for that rotation,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm curious to see where he goes. Obviously, the big fish. The Orioles have done some pretty good things to be considered. They've made quite a bit of moves, so give credit to Michael Elias for doing that. Obviously, one of the earlier moves that they made was a 1-for-1 trade with Taylor Ward for Grayson Rodriguez. And then from there, they shore up some of their bullpen in the back end with Ryan Helsley, who I know obviously was really struggling with the Mets last year in the second half. But when he is on, he's one of the best relievers out there, in baseball. But of course, the big fish that we had to talk about, and I'm a little bit salty about specifically this one, but of course, that is Pete Alonso.
Yes.
Pete Alonso, I predict Pete Alonso to come to my Red Sox. Of course, that didn't happen. He is now a Baltimore Oriole. I kind of shocked. I really am. I thought Pete was going to be either a long-term Met or was going to go to Boston. I didn't. I think Baltimore. I know that there was some interest there, but I actually didn't feel like he was going to go there. But he said during his presser that he really likes kind of what they're building right now, which of course is to be fair. They have one of the best farm systems in the league. They obviously have a very good park. So good for Pete, but it's going to be kind of hard to now root against him now within the division. But give credit to Baltimore. They've obviously done quite a bit of shopping right now.
Baltimore, if you look at their roster, it is a win now attitude. Like 2-year, maybe 3-year window until all their prize prospects that they have are free agents in due time, and they're going to want to be paid, whether it's, Gunnar Henderson or, you can go through the list. They just signed, or like I said, they were talking about, even getting rid of Adley Rutschman, but now it sounds like they're going to move him to DH because they locked up the catcher Basallo for what, $60 million?
Basallo, yeah, Samuel Basallo, yep.
Yeah, so it just seems like the hitting wise they're going to be loaded. I can see Alonso down there, especially that short, I call it the short porch in left field, maybe hitting 35, 40 homers a season in Baltimore. I thought he was going to your Red Sox too. I was surprised with Baltimore, but I guess with their mindset, the management, it's a win now attitude in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think that also Baltimore's kind of looking at the whole division and thinking that they're probably going to get better all along. I mean, look at Toronto. I think that was kind of a big eye-opening moment of okay, they just added a little bit of pieces and they found a way to make a run at the World Series. So I think Baltimore's also saying we can feel like we can be there, and they're starting to pounce now. They also made a couple other little trades as well too. They did make a trade for Andrew Kittredge, so obviously Kittredge is going to be in the back end with Ryan Helsley, and then obviously they did bring in Shane Baz, who is a very good pitcher with some stuff from Tampa Bay. Yeah, Michael Elias, man, he's doing a lot of good stuff, good things over there. Now Shane Baz is definitely an interesting name because I mean the Red Sox have been tied with Ketel Marte, but the Rays have also been tied in with Ketel Marte, and Shane Baz was going to be possibly kind of a name that could have been a bit of package for Ketel Marte. So I did really find that overall move to Baltimore kind of we'll see specifically about that. A couple other guys specifically that are still out. Yes, I already went through some of the Orioles free agents. Okay, now let's get into the Rays now. Here, so the Rays, they've done quite a bit as well. They had a couple trades that just transpired about last week. They still have two free agents out there in the market, including one of the top guys on the relieving market, and Pete Fairbanks. Um, They've made quite a bit of acquisitions, not crazy specifically. They got Jake Fraley, Jacob Melton, and a three-team trade with the Pirates and the Astros, which I'm supposed to talk about. They got Steven Matz, who was on my Red Sox, and then Cedric Mullins. So, couple names, but nothing too crazy. At least in the addition part for the Rays.
Well, yeah, I mean they're on a budget, and they're also their ownership. I know was trying to sell the team, so they probably don't want to go crazy in terms of a payroll. And you look at that trade they made with Pittsburgh and Houston. I mean, they went for youth prospects and just we're going to cut salary, whatever it may be. So they're probably going to one of the smaller payrolls, I guess you want to say, in the major leagues. But that's what it comes down to is that they're just going to go cheap in a certain way.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. They seem to be kind of that team now that's starting to cut some guys budget wise, and they're kind of looking at now the next phase of their overall. I wouldn't say rebuild because they don't really rebuild. The Rays specifically are just kind of a team that definitely will win about 75, 80, just kind of just as is because their overall scouting is very, very good. Their pitching scouting is very, very good. So I wouldn't like rule out specifically them to not be a bad team. They're just be kind of average. Kind of when you look kind of the rest of that division. But some of the subtractions that they made, and couple like big time ones. Um, so obviously headlined by Brandon Lau, the long term Ray, that's been there for a while. The second baseman, a three-team trade with Brandon Lau going to the Pirates, and I'll talk about the Pirates in a little bit, but give credit to the Pirates. They're starting to make some moves here. I think partly because of the tens of the lockout coming next year, unfortunately, in the league, and Paul Skeens is going to be a free agent, I think, a couple of years from now. So they want to make sure that Paul Skeens is going to be a long-term Pirate, but I don't know. We'll see. And then Shane Baz, like I said, he is now leaving Tampa Bay to Baltimore. And then also in that three-team trade, outfielder Jake Magnum, who is kind of a nice prospect that they had over there. Very good slap hitter. Definitely killed the Red Sox. I mean, he definitely, you talk about just killer specifically on a team specific. He just was one of them. Didn't hit for power, but he just a pest. So I'm very glad that he left. Very glad that Brandon Lau left because he's also a pest as well. But he also hits for power. He's just a very good player. I could root for Brandon Lau now. And then they also got moved up for Mason Montgomery, who's a relieving pitcher. Adrian Hauser had a pretty good year for them last year. And then a couple other guys, including a guy like Christopher Morale, went to Marlins, and then Cameron Missner with the Royals. So definitely, I would say, Lau, Baz, and Magnum were kind of the three big time pieces. Hauser's kind of a low key, like interesting move, like a mid tier type of pitcher because he obviously had some of his best stuff last year. So that's just kind of the whole outlook of the Rays, at least for now.
Yeah, that's Tampa for you. Basically, it's just going to be get rid of high price guys and then keep a certain like we talk about certain limit, get younger, get prospects, and build it up that way. And I know I think they're going back into their old ballpark because they fixed the roof finally. So it's just Tampa. That's just Tampa for you. I don't think anything really is going to change dramatically with this team until ownership sells, and then maybe we'll get an owner will spend more and they'll get their new ballpark, whatever else. But this is the Tampa Bay Rays for you, and somehow they manage sometimes certain years to be in the playoffs over this, which is pretty. It says a lot about their management team. They know what in terms of, like you said, scouting and finding talent. So
Yeah, 100% agree. Now let's go to my Red Sox. So obviously we have done some stuff. Not crazy yet. Definitely, I think we definitely time will tell in terms of if we were going to add a number two starting pitcher, which I kind of hope for. It doesn't sound like it. I think as of right now, it sounds like Sonny Gray will be our number two, which I'm okay with. I don't love it. So hopefully that maybe there could be potentially a guy like Joe Ryan, who I'm kind of starting to lose hope for by the weeks on end because I don't think that they're going to move on from him. But maybe a guy like Freddie Peralta from Milwaukee, I think is be kind of like my next like target, or a guy like Cole Reagans. I'm just kind of looking at like team specific that need like outfielding help because Jaron Duran and Willie Abreu, I still think one of those guys is going to be moved. Neither of those guys have been moved yet. But the Red Sox have been pretty active so far in the trade market. Not crazy active, but they've made moves. Um, Free agents, obviously, we'll start, of course, with the big one, Alex Bregman. I still, of course, think that Bregman is going to be coming back. I feel pretty good about it. There obviously has been some teams out there recently, like a team like Arizona, the Cubs, they've obviously kind of been looking around the Tigers, obviously, as well. But I think that he's just trying to still gauge like his market out there. And it's the Scott Boras guy. So you know Scott Boras, he's gonna, wait and wait and wait. And wouldn't shock me, when I'm on vacation. I've always like made this cracking joke, but I've been on vacation like the last couple of New Year's, Christmases, and every single time I'm down in Florida, some move happened specifically. I mean, last year Corbin Burns, I was down in Florida. That move, of course, happened when I was down there. So I'm expecting Alex Bregman to be somewhere when I'm down there. Just hopefully it's back with my team. We'll see. Rafael Devers extension with the Sox at that point in time. Another example, a couple years ago. So there's always seems to be crazy action on him down there. So knock on wood, hopefully Bregman comes back. Lucas Giolito, I don't think Giolito's coming back. I think it's more 50-50. Liam Hendricks, I don't think he's coming back. Nate Lowe, I don't think he's coming back. Justin Wilson, I would say 50-50. And then Winkowski, I doubt it happens either. Now, in terms of the additions, and the most recent one is my favorite one, and that is the trade for Wilson Contreras from the St. Louis Cardinals. Obviously, I wanted Pete Alonso, but I think that this is a pretty solid plan B option, if you ask me. Wilson Contreras has put up some pretty good stats. I really liked him. I remember with the Cubs, of course, being a catcher over there. And he obviously has a really good pull size swing. He always obviously hits for all different fields, but I think he's going to really pepper that monster, which I'm very, very happy about. And you could probably put him. I mean, I think Breslow said that you could probably put Contreras, I'd say, mostly at first base, maybe a little bit at DH and maybe a little bit catcher. But catching, I think right now we're pretty good at with Juan and Narvaez. But they need to get a ready bat with some thump. And I do think they have to still, whether it's getting Bregman or somebody else, I think they need to get one more bat. And I think that they still have to prioritize that. But this is a pretty good start. Contreras is a pretty good guy to have. Especially with, your young youth with Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer. Granted, Meyer sticks around and not be traded, but I like this move a lot. So obviously you got Contreras, Sonny Gray, obviously early in the offseason, and of course the Johan Oviedo trade with the Pirates. So what do you think about the actual couple trades that Craig has made so far? The Red Sox are the only team right now that have not spent yet. And I'm still really upset about that. Like, time to start to spend a little bit because, you're a big market team and right. I've been tired of them not, going out and making a splash, whether it's a Schwarber or Alonso or somebody, right. So hopefully that they can start using that money for sure. I know that we just sold a lot of the share to the Penguins. They sold from the Fenway Sports Group, but they got to start spending. But obviously, if you don't spend, you got to, make some type of impact moves via trade, I guess. And, that's what Craig likes to do. And they got Contreras. So Contreras, Gray, and Oviedo. They like to make trades with the Cardinals. And guys also report out that the Red Sox might be linked into making another trade with the Cardinals for Brendan Donovan, second baseman. So I don't know specifically that'll happen, but it would not shock me one bit, because they've already made two separate trades with the Cardinals already. So it'll not be shocking if there's a trifecta coming our way. But we'll see. But what do you think? What do you think about how our offseason's done so far? And what do you think the rest of our offseason will be?
Well, with the Contreras trade, where is he going to be? Batting 3, 4, 5 somewhere in there?
I would say he's going to be our four guy, number 5 guy. It'll depend specifically. I mean, I look at the lineup right now. Roman will obviously lead off. And then if Bregman comes back, I'd say, you put Bregman at number 2. And then Contreras could really be kind of in your 3 or 4 spot, right around there.
I think it would, like you said, it was a good trade for Contreras to come there. Like you said, we needed a right-handed back. I do think they're going to sign Bregman. I think, like I said, Boston is doing moves that way. Maybe the ownership is just waiting. I see like everybody's waiting. Seems like most teams are waiting out their guys in terms of like who's going to make the first move of free agency. For whatever reason, I know like the Phillies jumped a little bit in some of these other ones, but the main fishes or big fishes are still out there. And Boston, I'm surprised Boston like hasn't made a move. Like you said, go out and spend. And sooner or later, I imagine by beginning of January, fans up there will probably be like, "What are you doing? Like, why aren't you going out and getting some guys or re-signing your guys?" So
right.
Yeah, no, but I like the trade for Contreras. He was a good bat for St. Louis. St. Louis must be looking to cut salary. Like he said, same thing. Get rid of Arenado, Donovan, Contreras for some reason, and people aren't going out. Like I said, you saw last year in St. Louis when they were bad, people aren't going out there. So maybe they're going to be going into a full rebuild here before you know it.
Yeah, they're definitely, they have to kind of pick a side. They've just been stuck in mediocrity for the last several years, so they have to find a side now to go to. So that's that. In terms of some subtractions that the Red Sox have made as well, Richard Fitz was in one of the trades that was for Sonny Gray. Brandon Clark was also in the Sonny Gray trade. Steven Matz went to the Rays. Dustin May went over to the Cardinals. And Rob Refsnyder, shout out to Ref. He was one of my like low-key favorite guys on the team. Lefty masher. He just absolutely mashed lefties. I mean, he had like a 800 to 900 OPS against lefties. And a really good bat. He's over at Seattle. And then the password, Johansen Garcia was in the trade package for Johan Oviedo. So that's the Red Sox for you for that. Now let's go over to my rivals team and the New York Yankees. And the New York Yankees have not really done much of anything. I love it.
Right.
I'm not going to, go crazy with it. I mean, I do feel for Ryan a lot, obviously, because I do think that Ryan also did say that he wasn't expecting a lot of moves, and temper the expectations. But even as a Red Sox fan, I'm very, very shocked that Brian Cashman, Hal Steinbrenner have not really done much of anything, because they are in a position right now with Aaron Judge's prime to hopefully win themselves a World Series. I mean, they haven't won a World Series since 2009. So very, very shocking that they really have not done much. I mean, yeah, they're notable acquisitions according to MLB.com, and they're not really notable. I mean, there are a lot of guys, basically everybody that they've had so far, David, was from the team last year. So right now, essentially, they're running it back. They have not got specific anybody that's been outside of their team. Trent Grisham, he resigned. Brian Yarbrough resigned. Ahmed Rosario resigned. And Paul Blackburn. I mean, there's really not much to really kind of write home about at all.
No.
Obviously, your free agent said you got Cody Bellinger, Jake Cousins, Scott Efros, Paul Goldschmidt, Jonathan Melaska, and Austin Slater. I mean, it's really not Cody Bellinger, obviously. It's really Bellinger or bust for them. I mean, I kind of look at it. I don't think they're going to go get Tucker. I know that Tatsuyama Omai, one of the Japanese guys, there has been some guys now from the Japanese market that have kind of started to spiral, including Munetaka Murakami, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But it doesn't seem like Omai is going to be what the Yankees radar at all. So I think the Yankees really, they don't get Bellinger, they might make a secondary move that could be. I mean, I reported they're looking at your guy Austin Hayes from the Phillies. I mean, it's just not really much to really write home about. So I don't really know what they're doing. But and then their subtractions. 2 guys specifically in their back end last year in the bullpen, Devin Williams and Luke Weaver. Both are now going to the Mets. As Ryan has said, they like to bring a lot of the Yankees scraps over there. I actually like these moves though for the Mets low key. I mean, Luke Weaver, before he got hurt, was one of the best relievers out there in baseball. And then Devin Williams, I just think that, the Stearns connection, Milwaukee and stuff, I think that it just pretty much kind of all made sense. It was either going to be there at the Dodgers. And then you had also 2 other guys, Ian Hamilton and Mark Leiter Jr., being on the move too. So, man, the Yankees really just have not done really much of anything. And I think it's just going to come down to either Bellinger or bust. I mean, they might go out and get a guy that's out there that we're not talking about, and it wouldn't shock me. But a lot of the reports out there right now, it could be one of the most like depressing off seasons that the Yankees have had in a while because they typically have been busy and they haven't really done much of anything this year.
Yeah, I would say that if the Yankees, like you said, with Bellinger, I like Cody Bellinger.
Me
I think
too.
he's a guy I feel like he can hit 25, 30 homers a year. I don't know, like you said, once again, I don't know what the ownership thing, or is it because of the lockout? They're like, we don't want to spend a 5-year deal on somebody. I don't know, but like it seems like when it started when they signed Grisham, and I think it caught even I think the Yankees off guard. They just really haven't been trying to find it, like what to get or what to get rid of. And like you said, it's starting to seem like when you look at some of these teams and they're one of them, it's just like, we'll just run this back next year and we'll get Cole back because he'll be from the Tommy John, but it's going to be the same team. And maybe we get Bellinger, but maybe we don't. I don't see them going like, we're going to go out and spend like the Dodgers or whatever else. So,
And some years it's just you're not going to be spending, but it's like they right now, like they're just not getting anybody specifically just in general. Like just at least a little bit of like a impact, like a I mean obviously Luke Weaver left, but even like a relieving guy, like a Ryan Helsley, I'm obviously not saying he's gonna be a massive difference maker, but even like just a minor move, like a very like impacted minor move. Just doesn't really scream right now the way the Yankees are. I mean, right now with the Yankees kind of looking right now in the division, I picked them at like number 3.
yeah.
Just kind of granted. I just don't. I think that they could probably win. I mean, obviously because Judge is Judge, they could probably win about 83, 84 games, but probably not much more than that unless they make an impact move that that will obviously things can change from there, but we'll see. Let's go now to the AL Central of things. We'll try to, kind of keep this going a little bit faster because I know, of course, we're going to be trying to keep it with about an hour. Let's go to the Guardians. Guardians has just been a kind of a team where it's kind of there, right? Free agents: Will Brennan, Nick Enright, Jacob Junis, John Means. Acquisitions: they brought in 3 guys, including 2 relief pitchers: Colin Holderman, Sean Armstrong, and then Stuart Fairchild. Some subtractions: Wayne Thomas went to Kansas City, Sam Hedges, Giants, and Tristan McKenzie, the Padres. Guardians are just going to be kind of always that team where they're just not going to spend a lot. That's just kind of just they'll make maybe kind of a move or two, but you just kind of expect what you're going to kind of expect. That's pretty much it.
They're one of the teams I believe who don't. Well, they said they're always under 100 million in their payroll. They're about 90 or so, and that's the ownership. He's not going to go over and pay a luxury tax, whatever else. And I wouldn't be still surprised now with free agent moves. I still wouldn't be surprised if they try and trade Stephen Kwan. I think he's definitely open to be traded still.
Well, yeah, I think his definitely his name was floated out there in the market last year. I think now he's probably not going to get traded until potentially the trade deadline, kind of depending on kind of where the team kind of is. But yeah, I mean, I think Kwan definitely could be out there soon.
Yeah, but Cleveland's is going to be 80, 85 win team. I don't think that. I'm not really overly impressed with the Guardians. I really never have been. They get a little thing and then they just go backwards. And this owner's, like you say, he's just not going to go spend.
They'll just be always a team that you just kind of know they're a scrappy team. They're not going to hit for power. It's definitely just a team that it's a small ball type of team. But it's just unfortunately it just does not translate when it comes to playoffs. Like they need to be able to get stuff like a guy with pop. I've always liked Carl Santana with them, because Carl Santana, I know obviously he's not a big household name, but he's just been a guy that could just immediately bring pop,
Right.
and I don't know if that, he'd be obviously a guy that they get, but they just need pop, and it just did not happen. Now let's go to this team, and this team I've really liked a lot of what they've done. And that's been the Kansas City Royals. Kansas City Royals have really just done a lot of good things. Free agents wise, they still got guys like Taylor Clark, Adam Frazier, Reno Gritchick, Hunter Harvey, who I think is a really underrated arm, Mike Lorenzen, Luke Maile, and then MJ Melendez. Melendez was a DFA candidate, but he's still there. Matt Strom, who of course was with their Phillies, David. You guys made a trade with them. I really like that move for them to kind of help shore up the bullpen. Lane Thomas, who I just mentioned about from Cleveland. They made a trade with the Brewers for 2 guys, Isaac Collins, outfielder, and Nick Mears. And then, of course, they made an outfield with Cameron Mesner, who's one of their top prospects, and then Alex Lange for a 1-year deal. They haven't really missed too many guys, specifically subtraction wise. They haven't really lost a lot of names. I mean, Mike Jastrzemski went to the Braves, and then you got Angel Zerba, and then Jonathan Bolin. But outside of that, I mean, the Royals definitely could be a really good team this year. I really do. I mean, you obviously still have, Bobby Witt, of course, kind of leading the charge, and then Salvi obviously doesn't have the same average he once was, but he still has a lot of pop. So I think Salvi obviously still, up there for one of the best catchers out there. But I just think that they made a lot of good moves so far. I really do, and this team definitely, I think, to me, could be a wild card to win the division.
Okay, I actually see them maybe winning the division just because I think the AL Central is just a weak division. So they're building it the right way, like you said, with prospects. They made some good moves. They were sure up the bullpen. Now he got Strom. I thought that was a good move for him as well. It was definitely a salary, what you want to say, cost cutting move by Philadelphia. Yeah, I really like Kansas City a lot. In terms like they're just one of those teams that just stays under the radar, and then they make these moves, and it's like, oh, look at this team. So yeah, and then like they got a great leader in Perez. So yeah, they're going to be a team to watch, I think, this upcoming season in the Central.
All right, now let's look over to the next team that definitely could have a chance to win the division as well. That's the Detroit Tigers. Obviously, the biggest question out there is what happens to Tariq Skubal. I mean, that, of course, has just been the biggest question for a lot of the offseason. I think as weeks and stuff go on, I think that he's going to be a Tiger. There has not been any signs to me right now that a team has even had a package that has been kind of, convincing, I guess you can say so far. I think that team have kind of backed up. And I know that Skubal has been kind of going to different Detroit sporting events recently. I mean, he went to the Lions game not too long ago. He went to the Red Wings, I think. So are people kind of making speculation that it could be his AKA farewell tour? I don't know. Right. But I do think that definitely is kind of something to key an eye on because, I mean, a lot of athletes, of course, they'll maybe go to a thing time to time, but it's basically kind of boom, 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 like almost. So it's kind of like, okay, there might be something there. I think that Tariq Skubal definitely will either be – I don't think he's going to be a Tiger long term. Unfortunately, I don't see it. I feel like there would have been something by now if he was going to be a long-term Tiger because the lockout is probably going to happen next year. And so I do think that if you want to get the most value on the market and you're going to get a hefty payday, I think that now is the time to, of course, cash in, and they have not. So I think that there's going to be a lot of teams out there, including the Dodgers. I know people don't want to hear it, but I think the Dodgers are definitely going to be ready to pounce come the trade deadline. I think that definitely the Tigers are going to be a team that has been kind of, we'll see, by the trade deadline. I definitely think that he could be gone. I really do. If not that, definitely by next year's offseason. So keep that, of course, in mind with Tariq Skubal. Free agents for the Tigers, Alex Cobb, Duggan Darnell, Andy Ibanez, Tommy Kinley, Rafael Montero, Chris Paddock, Paul Sewell, and Jose Urquidy. Obviously some of the guys to look at, but nothing great to kind of write home about. Notable acquisitions. The Tigers made some pretty good acquisition moves. I mean, they did bring back Glaber. Glaber obviously is a really good, I think, piece from the last year at playing second base. And they brought some guys in to help in the bullpen on the back end. Kenley Jansen, pretty good arm in the back end to have. I know obviously he's not the same guy he once was, but he's still pretty solid. Kyle Finnegan, another good guy to have and either be a closer, be a setup man. So the Tigers, have a couple of guys that you could put in. Of course, both that's back there in the bullpen, and then they brought in Trey Anderson, and they don't really lose a lot with subtraction. I mean, they lost Jason Foley and Chase Lee, so that's really it. So the Tigers, I think, have done pretty solid. I mean, I think they'll be still a solid team.
Yeah, the back end of that Sanchez Finnegan thing is an interesting setup with 8-9. I mean, Sanchez or what? Not Sanchez. Kenley Jansen, right?
They have Kenley Jansen they brought in, and then they also brought in Kyle Finnegan.
So,
two guys specifically that you could put it as a closer. Of course, if Will Vest is you need a shutdown day or something like that, but they obviously have guys that you can obviously rely on the back there.
I got his name wrong. It was Jansen. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's a nice 8 thing, ninth inning setup closer type of role. Detroit with that whole thing. That's why I'm kind of not really sure about them. I mean, they're a really good team in terms of when you look at the roster now, but I do think Scoople's getting traded, and I think it's just 1 or 2 because they were first talking like $250 million might be his next contract with pitching, and I'm thinking the Mets and the Dodgers, and just if I'm them, it's like we want him, and it's like take our prospects, and he's probably going to be at least I would say five players, whether it's prospects and player, current roster guys for him, but I definitely think this is his last year in Detroit. Whether it's,
I mean, he deserves to be there long term, but I think that as time goes on, I think that this is going to be his last rodeo with the Tigers. But we'll have to see. Then you got the last 2 teams out there that probably will not have a chance to win the division. That's the Minnesota Twins. The Twins specifically are a team right now that's kind of heading toward more of a rebuild.
Yes.
They obviously have. They don't really have much specifically right now in the offseason. Their free agents are Deshaun Kruse Jr. and Christian Vasquez, right? And then their notable acquisition was Josh Bell. So Josh Bell's fine. He's a switch hitter. You're not crazy. He's definitely going to come in probably and hit 20, 23 homers, probably about around a 240-ish type. He's a fine player. But, that's what probably the Twins are going to do. They're probably going to add, 1 year, 2 year deal type of guys to come in and probably just unload them, at the trade line.
That's Josh Bell.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Bell specifically will definitely probably trade, line, but yeah, they're just going to be a team that's in a rebuilding phase. They're not going to make a lot of household moves. It's kind of how the Twins are run.
I mean, like as I said, if you're a Twins fan, I guess your only reason why you're going to games is what Buxton, Ryan, the pitcher. They
Royce
don't have
Lewis.
Who's that?
Royce Lewis.
Yeah, Royce. They don't have much. It's a total rebuild. They got Reverby last year at the deadline, and like you said, Josh Bell will be there, do his numbers, and then by July he'll be with another team in a trade. Yeah. It seems like that's the Josh Bell cycle. So.
Yep. You have a lot of those guys, and Josh Bell is one of them. All right, the White Sox. Now the White Sox, I'm not saying they're going to be great. However, the White Sox have done a little bit of something here. I'm not saying it's going to be much of a lot, but they've done something. And the guy, one of the Japanese phenoms that was out there, a guy that a lot of people is kind of hesitant about because of his high strikeout rate, but he does have pop. And this guy potentially could be a buy low type of situation. I think this is a guy that, if things go well, it could definitely be a dime in the rough. And this is Munetaka Murakami, who put up 50 homers like 3-4 years ago in the Japan League. So this guy has ability to hit some bombs. And I think the White Sox are going to be one of those teams this year that will hit. I think they're going to be probably winning about 70, 75 plus games this year. Their pitching is just awful. Their pitching's a mess. But it'll be a team where it's going to be a fun team where they're going to probably score about between 5 to 6 runs, but they'll give up like 10, 11 runs.
Yeah.
That's kind of how the White Sox are going to be. But they definitely have a lot in their farm. I mean, Colton Montgomery, I think, has a lot of ability. He's a really good player. I love Kyle Teal. Yeah, I mean, the White Sox, they have Talkman, Michael Taylor, Miguel Castro, Martin Perez, and Cam Boozer as free agents. But, they brought in Munetaka Murakami, and then they brought in Sean Newcomb, who is one of the best southpaws relieving guy. I liked him with the Red Sox. He's just a very fine come in and kind of do his job. He throws soft, but he definitely does not give a lot of hard contact. And, the White Sox – I don't think they're going to be probably number 3 in the division, but they definitely could make a push to not be last. I'll say that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I really do. I really like kind of how, I think Murakami, nobody kind of looked at him, and I think it kind of made it seem like he's now kind of underrated, kind of more overrated, kind of given what his market was like. I think that there should have been a little bit more of recognition for him, and they basically just said, Jeff Passan said, Murakami's a White Sox. And people like, whoa. So, things definitely obviously can fall on the face of his earth, right? But, he's not going to be a White Sox long term. It's only a 2-year deal. So I think this is kind of a good way for he doesn't have to go to a crazy, environment at least to start his career. And if he does well, he's definitely going to get value for the next team that he's playing for. So I do kind of like that overall fit. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised the White Sox made this signing. I guess just because I
Mhm.
thought that they were in rebuild, and I guess it's is that they'll market him now. He's like they'll be but for the beginning part, he'll be the face of the White Sox in terms of like here's this phenom we got from Japan, and like you said, hits home runs and does this. And if the first year, if he like you said, he's great, that's great for the White Sox and stuff. But like I said, I just don't know. I just don't know what this White Sox. To me, I have him at fourth because I think and the only reason why I don't put him
Yeah.
in last is because Minnesota is just so bad that.
Mhm.
But yeah, Chicago, I think it's the same thing. It's Reinsdorf. He's trying to sell the team. Another one of these owners wants out of baseball, and yeah, I just don't know if the White Sox just that they are who they are right now. I guess whatever it is. I know they were looking to get a new ballpark too, which is amusing to me. But yeah, we'll see what happens with this team. Like I said, maybe this guy will pan out and I guess you'll find out by mid-season because he could hit like 12 home runs in April, and people were thinking, "Oh, it's great." But then once you get a read on him and they scout him, next thing you know, he could just go like this. So
Right. Well, we'll see.
yeah,
I do think it's a very buy low with very low to high potential. I'll kind of say it that way. At least.
okay,
All right. Now rounding up the American League with the West. Um, we'll start with the Angels. I'm not going to go really into a lot of the free agents at this point in time. I'm just going to go kind of into what they've done and the subtraction. So acquisitions, 1-for-1 with Grayson Rodriguez with Taylor Ward. Like I said, that was kind of earlier on. They added Alek Manoah, a former Red Sox, and Vaughn Grissom, Drew Pomeranz, who was not bad with the Cubs last year, and then Jordan Romano. So just kind of mid. I mean, kind of all you can round. I mean, it's very Angel-esque, you can say. And then they lost Taylor Ward and Kalen Jansen, and then Kyle Hendricks. This is kind of another team, kind of similar to the Twins. I mean, the Angels it's just kind of a team it's very mid. They'll win probably about 70 to 73 games, and they're it's just a very average team. It really is.
yeah. To me, actually, I think they're even worse. I mean, it's just like
Well, I
it's
said that to make it on the promising side of the average, but I
yeah.
definitely could see them being terrible too. I really can.
Yeah, I mean, they got the scrap heap in Jordan Romano from Philly. It's like I said that alone right there says a lot. But notice all their signings are 1 year. I mean, everything this year is 1 year. Free agents 1 year, manager 1 year. It's just they want to just do this, and then I guess they're waiting for the lockout because yeah, I have them actually dead last this year in the AL West. I just think
No, I could you can definitely make an argument. I definitely
yeah,
think they're on the downhill, and a team like Oakland or Sacramento now, I think definitely can make a jump. So definitely keep that in
oh
mind.
yeah,
The Astros. Now the Astros, obviously, what happens to Fromber? I think Fromber is still out there. I think it seemed like the Cubs and the Mets. There'll probably still be some guys looking for Fromber, and then there's a couple other guys out there as well too. Acquisitions. They really haven't done a lot, but I do like the Mike Burrows pitching part of the three-team trade with Brandon Lau and others. Burrows has a lot of good stuff, and he's one of the top prospects that's coming from Pittsburgh. Obviously they had Skeens, they had Mitch Keller, but Burrows definitely I think is a guy that definitely can come in. And the Astros definitely still need a lot of pitching depth, regardless if they bring Fromberg or not. So I like the move a lot for them. And then they really haven't lost a lot either. I mean, subtractions, they lost Marisa Dubon and Jacob Melton. So the Astros, I think, are going to still have a lot of team from last year. But of course, it depends really if Fromber comes back or not.
yeah. I have not heard them at all saying they were going to bring back Valdez. I think it's just he'll get a 4 or 5 year deal elsewhere, whatever it is. I don't know if maybe he rubbed the organization wrong at the end with some of the stuff he did at the end of the season last year. Maybe that's why they got Burrows to fill in that spot. I'm not saying he's got the numbers like that. Houston, I just don't know. Like they're a team to me that's just like I feel like they're kind of transitioning in terms of like maybe that with Altuve getting older and everything else. But I can't put my finger on the Astros this year.
Yeah. I think they're kind of starting to move away from some of the core that they've had the last couple of years, and they're kind of starting to hopefully kind of with some young youth like a guy like Cam Smith, I think is really kind of coming into his own. So,
Right.
they definitely have some guys. It just kind of depends if they want to kind of keep some of their guys from their core or
Right.
not. Now let's go to Sacramento. Sacramento really has not done much, but they've got a couple of acquisitions, including a trade with the New York Mets for Jeff McNeil. I think that the Sacramento A's definitely could make some noise via with their bats, but kind of like with the White Sox. I think that the Sacramento probably went about in the high 70s, low 80s, if I obviously had to guess. They just still need a lot of help in that pitching front, a lot.
Right.
They'll definitely can mash, but I just think that, they need some help. For agents, J.J. Bleday, Jose Leclerc, and Scott McGough. And then they lost John Newcomb. So Sacramento, they still are not going to get a lot, but I mean, I do like the McNeil move for them, and it's kind of it.
I think they, like you said, they got good bats pitching with. They got what, Severine. They got a couple of arms there too, but I think they're probably middle. They're middle of the division.
Let's go to the Mariners. Mariners definitely right now. I still think they're going to be up there for one of the teams to win the West. They obviously were a game away from making the LCS. So the Mariners, I still think are going to be a very good team next year. And obviously, one of the guys still out there in the market is Eugenio Suarez, who definitely put up a lot of good numbers. Not really for the Mariners last year, but definitely just his first half was incredible. So I'll be curious to see if he comes back. Obviously, the acquisitions, of course, Josh Naylor was the first move of the offseason. And they really haven't done a lot of big notable names besides that. They did get a Jose Ferrer, relieving guy from the Nationals. He definitely has a lot of velocity. And then they brought in Rob Refsnyder, of course, from the Red Sox. So they brought in some guys, off the bench and stuff. Of course, Brendan Naylor. So I think you're going to kind of keep a lot of the core that they had. They did lose Jorge Polanco, though. And Polanco was one of their better bats in the postseason last year.
Mm-hmm.
So they've kind of lost a little bit, but I think for the most part, they've kind of brought a lot of what they have back. And I wouldn't be shocked if Gino comes back, but even if he doesn't, I still think they're going to be a decent team.
Very good pitching roster they have. Their bats, their bats is a big issue for me. Like they really don't hit for average. If you look at that whole roster, and losing Polanco will be a loss for them. So it's going to be interesting to see how Seattle, plays this year in 26. How they are as a team hitting wise.
All right, let's go to Texas. Texas has a lot of free agents right now, but Texas, I think they're kind of like Houston. I think to me, they have some guys that are still part of their core. They lost quite a bit of their core though. From that Texas World Series year team. I mean, they lost Simeon. Adolis Garcia went to your Phillies because, of course, he was a DFA move at the time that Phillies picked him up. Jonah Heim is right now out there in the market, and Tyler Malley's out there in the market. John Gray's out there in the market. They also lost Merrill Kelly as well, too, who was a guy that they brought in from the trade deadline. And then guys like Sean Armstrong and Phil Maton, two guys in their bullpen. So they've lost quite a bit, actually. I'm not going to lie. But they brought in Brandon Nimmo. Via the trade. I think Nimmo's going to help in that corner. And then they brought back Chris Martin, who's a pretty good, reliever guy. Alexis Diaz, who I think could definitely be a buy low candidate. And, a couple other guys as well, too. So I think Texas, they'll probably win, at least to me, probably like, mid-80s. Probably 83, 85-ish. And, I think that they might take a step back this year, kind of given kind of what they've lost. But I think their pitching will still be good enough where they're probably going to be definitely a playoff team, if you ask me. I think they missed the playoffs last year. I think they bounced back. They still got Corey Seager. They got Wyatt Langford, Josh Jung, Josh Smith. They still got some guys there. And obviously in their rotation, you have Jack Leiter, you have Kumar Rocker, you have Jacob DeGrom, Nathan Eovaldi. So if they have guys, it's all about their health. They were really banged up last year. That's kind of how they weren't able to kind of keep everybody kind of rolling at the same time. If they stay healthy, they definitely could be a solid team.
Was there some news, unless I must have read it wrong, whatever, about something like that the Rangers were maybe even looking to shop Seager, or am I wrong on that?
I think because they're maybe trying to shed a little bit of salary, I think that his name is kind of just floated. I think right now, I think he's not going to get moved. I think maybe I don't really know about what Seager's looking at right now in terms of his contract, but
Hmm.
yeah, that'll definitely be fascinating to kind of watch. I will say. I think he's definitely going to stay there for a little bit, but his name was floated. I will say
Okay.
that. I don't
I
think he's.
really, I was just gonna say real quick. I really don't know about Texas this year. I mean, they made the Nemo trade, but I thought was good for Texas, but I really don't know about the rest of the team. Like you said, they lost a lot of guys. So
Right. All right, now let's go into the National League, and we're going to go to your division now, David. So let's
mhm.
go to the Braves. How about the Braves? The Braves have been one of our active teams right now in the offseason. They brought in Robert Suarez, one of the better relieving guys in the market from the Padres. He's actually going to be their number 8 guy. They're going to keep Razel Iglesias, so they did bring back as well in a 1-year deal um, to be their closer. But they have 2 guys in the back end of the bullpen. The bullpen for them was kind of the last couple of years.
Mhm.
Brayden and Suarez should help a lot immensely. They got some guys out with some velo. And then they brought in Hassan Kim back. I think he's a really good piece for them, kind of a utility, second base, shortstop type of guy. They brought in Mike Yastrzemski from the Royals, playing the outfield, so I think that helps him a lot, especially with Ronald Acuna Jr. with his health. I mean, he's been kind of banged up a couple of years. So Yastrzemski obviously could be a starter, he could be a guy off the bench. And then they brought in Mauricio Dubon, of course, the utility guy, kind of middle part, you kind of like them positions. They brought in some other guys as well, too, not household names as well, but they have been active for sure. So Antopoulos is really trying to get that team back to playoff contention after, of course, missing it the last couple of years. And, I thought the Braves have done a pretty good job so far.
I like Atlanta's team. I thought the Yastrzemski signing was really good. I always liked him when he was with the Giants. Surprised, like I said, Kansas City let him bounce. Where, like I said, that was surprising for me. But I like Atlanta's team as long as they're healthy. That's their main issue has been health, especially in the pitching department.
All right, next team. This is going to be pretty much short and simple. That's the Marlins. Marlins really have done nothing at all, and it shouldn't be a shocker. They have no free agents. So the Marlins have no free agents.
Wow.
Their notable acquisition was only one guy, and that was Christopher Morel on a 1-year deal. And their notable subtraction was Joey Weimer, traded with the Giants. Now, I don't know if they're going to maybe trade any of their pitchers, whether it's Alcantara, whether it's Jerry Perez, whether it's Edward Cabrera. That's probably the only big notable thing I at least look at for the Marlins. But they're not going to spend. That's pretty much kind of MO for the Marlins. They're a small market type of team. A lot of contrary small market teams, they don't spend. The Marlins they don't spend at all. So I'm not shocked about this, but it's just kind of what you're going to kind of get.
Yeah. This is that is Miami, that team in general. That's why they'll probably be once again in the basement in the NL East. At least I think they'll be. They don't do anything.
All right. Now he's talking about not doing anything for the Marlins. We go transition to one of the teams that's been the most active teams, and that's the New York Mets. The New York Mets probably are the biggest team that has made moves, basically getting rid of the whole entire core, at the forefront. Free agents, at least for the Mets, they have Griffin Canning, Max Krennic, Starling Marte, Frankie Montas, Drew Smith, Ryan Stanek, and Jesse Winker. And now let's take a look at their subtractions because, man, they have lost a lot. They have added quite a bit acquisition-wise, whether Met fans like it or not. But they did bring in Marcus Semien. Obviously, early on in the offseason, the trade, of course, Brandon Nimmo.
Right.
They brought in Devin Williams, who, of course, was going to help probably, the back end. I know, of course, last year, he really struggled, at least in the first half. And the second half, he definitely was a lot better with the Yankees. And then, of course, Jorge Polanco, who, of course, should come in and be a switch hitter. That should help a lot. And then, obviously, Luke Weaver. Luke Weaver, like I mentioned before, he definitely has a lot of ability to be a very solid relieving pitcher if he can stay healthy. Unfortunately, he just was not healthy a lot of last year, and I think that kind of really caused him to have some inefficiency with his production. So that's kind of how I look at it there. And then the subtractions. Like I said, they pretty much got rid of the whole entire core. Pete Alonso's gone. Edwin Diaz is gone. Brandon Nimmo's gone. Jeff McNeil, Tyler Rogers, Cedric Mullins, Brian Halsey, Gregory Soto, and Danny Young. So not only a lot of the core is pretty much gone, basically everybody from that they got from the trade deadline is pretty much gone. So David Stearns definitely has a certain plan in place that I think a lot of people, including Met fans, are like, I don't know what it's exactly going to be. I think that Mets are trying to maybe build a team with more run prevention, as we kind of talked about. And I think Cody Bellinger definitely could be on their forefront if the Yankees don't bring him back. So I wouldn't be shocked about that. Maybe Kyle Tucker, but I do think the Mets still need a lot of work because I think that right now, to me, I think between the Braves and the Phillies, I think the Mets might take a step back with all of their stuff that they lost, and maybe they win high 70s if I want to be nice about it. But I just think that it's just not a team, at least to me. I mean, you lost Pete Alonso. I mean, you lost a lot of thump there, and then you lost one of the best closers in baseball, Edwin Diaz. I know, obviously, you have Soto, you have Lindor. So I think that's why I'm saying, definitely have a chance to have the highest limit of like low 80s in terms of wins, but they still need a lot of work. But they've definitely been very, very active.
I can't believe the Mets didn't make an offer for Alonso. Like, didn't even nothing. I was just like, here's a guy who hit you 30 plus and fans love him. This, just everything. Didn't you make an offer? And then it's like you get Polanco, and they were saying he's going to be like a first baseman. I think he's played one game, maybe his whole career at first base. And then they were talking about they want to maybe add Paul Goldschmidt. I'm just like, it's going to be just like, I honestly think it's a rich guy who doesn't know how to run a sports franchise, and there's plenty of them. And Mr. Cohen is one of them. I just don't. I honestly don't know what the Mets are doing. I still don't.
Yeah, we'll probably have a better picture by the end of the new year. I think maybe early on in January you'll probably see the Mets doing something else, but it's all about what do they do next.
Right.
Because I know they've lost a lot, but now it's what can they do to kind of get this back on shit as well, too. So we're going to have to see. Let's go to the Nationals. The Nationals, I think, are a team that's definitely going to get better. They're definitely just right now on the come up. Mm-hmm. And they did bring in Harry Ford, who was one of the top prospects from Seattle in terms of catching. So I really like that. And they brought in Foster Griffin, kind of a whatever type of move. They really haven't lost. They really didn't lose a lot either. I will be curious to see in terms of what they do via the trade market, though, because I think Mackenzie Gore is going to be available, and I do think C.J. Abrams can be available as well, too. So those are two really main pieces for their team. So if they move on from them, I do think that definitely it's they could definitely lose quite a bit, but they might be able to get some really good prospects back for two guys that are very, very good. So I'll be curious to kind of see what the Nationals do from here, but they should be okay this year. I think they'll definitely be a little bit better.
I think the Nats are going to be in their future just going to go with guys that they come up from the farm. I don't see them as being big spenders, even in the free agent market. Maybe they'll get like the second or third tier guys, but they're going to mostly just rely on who they draft, prospects, and that's how they'll build the team up.
Right. Yep. They might get like a Chris Bassett, Luis Severino-esque type of pitcher, and maybe rock from there. And not saying that's not bad, but that's kind of what basically the MO is now for the Nationals.
Yes.
Now let's go over to your Phillies. We finally got to the point in time where it's now onto your team of the show. So the Phillies, obviously, the free agents that you guys still have: Harrison Bader, Walker Buehler, who of course you guys got from my team, Max Kepler, Tim Meza, JT Realmuto, obviously one of the big guys out there, Daniel Robert, David Robertson, Ranger Suarez, and Lou Trevino. And then in terms of the subtractions you guys lost, you guys lost Matt Strahm and Jordan Romano. And then acquisitions, of course, you guys re-signed Kyle Schwarber. I picked it pretty much from the start. You, of course, picked it. This definitely was kind of like early on in the offseason, too, where Schwarber was just like, yeah, I like being here. I want to try to win a World Series here. And I basically kind of said, on a pre-show in terms of where I didn't really see a world, outside potentially like a Boston or Chicago where he was going to leave. I just think that the Phillies really, they need to keep the power and that production there. And I think that Schwarber obviously kind of still loves that kind of – he's built for that team. He really is. And so I really like that. Brad Keller, really good move for the Phillies there with Brad Keller. And Brad Keller, you actually kind of saw what the Cubs did. You're kind of mocking him as kind of a really good reliever. And he was really kind of their closer for a lot of the season last year. He was actually the closer for the Cubs when they were in the playoffs last year as well too. So he
Mhm.
definitely has a lot of experience, and he could maybe be a multi-inning guy too, like the mid part of a game or whatever too. So he's kind of a Swiss Army knife, but I do think you're probably going to use him a lot in the back end, with Johan Duran. And then Dolis Garcia, this is definitely a buy low, high risk, low reward. Definitely you could hit on him, you might not. I still think there's a little bit of good stuff in it, Dolis. I would not definitely rule out anything less. And it's only 1 year deal, so you're obviously not losing a lot there. And then, of course, a couple other guys too. That's run out household names, but the Phillies, I still think are going to be a very solid team. I think you will start bringing back JT, and then Ranger Suarez. I don't know about Suarez. I think Suarez, a team like Baltimore, I think is really going to be trying to get him really, really highly because they still need some pitching help. I wouldn't be shocked about Harrison Bader though coming back. I think he did a really good job over with Philly, and he could be a starter. He could be off the bench. So the Phillies definitely have a pretty good thing going for them right now. And it's all about their health, right? Too. They can stay healthy and they have all the pieces. They'll be fine.
Let's see. I liked some of the moves. I like the Keller. I mean, the Keller signing was nice. The Strom one, I understood why they traded, probably to cut salary with the thing. Didn't like the return. Was hoping for something else. I don't think Bader returns. I think they're going to go with four outfielders that they have. They're going to go with Crawford, Marsh, Castellanos will probably get dealt or just outright waived. Garcia, and then they got some other guys like Johan Rojas. I know he's still part of the organization or whatever else. Kepler will be gone. They've already have said that. In terms of JT Real Muto, that's the one that's just interesting to me because that's supposedly there has been an offer. I am wondering if he wants 3 years, and the Phillies are like, I don't think so. And right now you just have a standoff. And I think if a team, whoever needed a catcher, said, hey, well, we'll give you 3, and here's our thing, he could throw it back at him, and then it's up to them. But, I mean, do I think Real Muto will sign here? But yes, but do I think he'll get 3? No. I think it'd be actually be a mistake to give him 3 because he's 35 years old and a lot of wear and tear on his knees.
Yeah, definitely probably like a 2-year deal I think is pretty safe for him.
Right.
Maybe with the club option. That's kind of how I see it with JT at this point in time.
Right.
Let's go to the NL Central here. Let's just kind of rapid fire a little bit here.
Okay.
The Brewers. Brewers have kind of made some moves. I mean, they brought in Brandon Woodruff. They brought in Angel Zerba in a trade. And they got in Akil Baddoo. For agents they have still is Reese Hoskins, Shelby Miller, Jordan Montgomery, and Jose Quintana. Brewers definitely are just kind of there. You just kind of know what you're going to kind of get. They're going to be probably winning about in the mid 80s and make the playoffs, and we'll see kind of how they are from there. That's kind of the MO with the Brewers.
If they lose Peralta, that's a big loss, and that might actually knock them down in terms of the division, maybe like 3rd, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
But Milwaukee to me is just that signed the same team, but the big one's Peralta. If they lose him, they're in trouble. I feel like they will.
Now let's get to the Cardinals and our best buddy trade partner team, if I have to call it that way.
Yeah.
They've lost quite a bit, of course, like we talked about the Cardinals. They're definitely be selling, and they've sold quite a bit so far. They've lost Wilson Contreras and Sonny Gray, both to my Red Sox. And then acquisitions, nothing to write home about, but they did get some young talent from us, including Hunter Dobbins and Richard Fitz and Brandon Clark. So I do think that's stuff going to help them a lot in terms of their rebuilding phase.
Right.
And then, of course, a couple other guys, nothing to write home about. Cardinals are, like we talked about, they're just rebuilding. They're not going to be good.
No. Maybe 4th in the division, perhaps last. I mean, if they get rid of Arenado, then it's definitely a full rebuild.
All right, let's go to a team in the Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
Cubs really have not done a lot. I mean, they've brought a couple of guys on 1-year deals: Tyler Austin, Jacob Webb, Hobie Milner, Caleb Thielbar, Phil Maton. A lot of just leaving guys, and then they brought back Shoni and Managa. They have still a lot of free agents out there, including Kyle Tucker. I don't think Tucker's going back to Chicago. I think that's not happening. I don't really know what the Cubs and Jed Hoyer wants to do. I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's maybe Fromber. that could maybe be potentially kind of their big fish. I guess I had to say one. Um, but yeah, I mean, they still kind of have a lot of their core. I mean, PCA and Dansby, and they have some guys still there that are pretty solid. So, I mean, the Cubs, I think, are just going to be kind of whatever.
Run it back.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, that's what it is.
Now let's go to one of my most interesting, fascinating teams on the whole show. And that's the Pirates, because I do think that Ben Sherrington, our former GM a couple of years ago, is trying to do some stuff. And they only have 3 free agents right now: Alexander Canario, Kutch, who should be back there to wrap up his career, and then Tommy Pham. The acquisitions, though, I like a lot. Brandon Lau, who of course was in part of the 3-team trade. They just brought in Ryan O'Hearn yesterday, from the day this was recorded, from the Padres. I didn't really know where O'Hearn was going to go. I did not expect the Pirates to. This is the first deal, David, multi-year David, that the Pirates have had, I think, since Ivan Nova, which has been so long. So I'm very happy for Pirates fans because they have such a great park. I don't know if you've been to that park, but they have a great park. It's they just have a great overall. It's a baseball town, and you just kind of hope that they definitely can get more out of that. And very just happy for them. And I do think Gregory Soto, of course, your relieving guy, throws some gas, and Jacob Magnum. That team definitely could probably win about low 70s. And I think that would definitely be good for them because they've just been so bad. But they definitely have some guys now that are some names. I'll say that.
Same with Pittsburgh. Well, first you look at this. Skeens probably said to build something here, or whatever it is, and probably they're getting it from all angles in terms of just getting criticize the organization. But you look at that lineup, all of a sudden Pittsburgh's got a nice little hitting core guys with Reynolds and O'Hearn, who that's like I said they said it was the first since 2019 with Pittsburgh. And then you're starting a rotation is Skeens, Calver, and Chandler. That's a nice 1-2-3 combo starters. So they're building something there. You could see it, but we'll see what happens this year in terms. I think, like you said, Pittsburgh's definitely starting to build up a little bit here, which is I'm glad because it is, like you said, it's a sports town, it's a baseball town. We saw that wild card, how that city went nuts for it. So yeah, I like to see Pittsburgh finally be, I guess you say, active in terms of making this a team and not whacking everybody, and having a $20 million payroll. So
yeah, for sure. And then we'll wrap it up with the final NL Central. That's the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds really have not done a whole lot, but it's not really shocking. They're just going to kind of run it back, and they'll probably kind of win what they've kind of done the last couple of years. It's really just kind of what the Reds have done.
I didn't like what that owner. The thing that bothered me if I was a Reds fan is he makes a move for Schwarber. Schwarber says no. And then he just goes, yeah, we're not going to be active in free agents. And I'm like, you offered a guy. And he goes, the only reason why we were trying to sell tickets. And it's almost like, this is the team we got, like it or not. So.
It sucks because the Reds definitely kind of like the Pirates. They definitely deserve it. I think that the fans definitely, if you could definitely put a good product out there on the field, I think that fans will go. Because since he has fairly pretty good fans, I mean, to say the least. So.
And he made the playoffs last year.
What's that?
They made the playoffs last year, Cincinnati. So you think you build up when whatever. So they were in the wild card, lost to the Dodgers, whatever, or the playoff.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so you have something here. It's like you have this small window of these guys before they all bail, and you do nothing. Makes no sense.
It's almost like you kind of forget they're in the playoffs this year because they got there, but they kind of didn't because you just kind of knew that they were not going to have a shot.
Right.
but give credit to them though, just even get in. All right, NL West. So the battle of the beasts. The D-backs. They did not bring in much, but they ran back. They got a couple guys. Brought back Merrill Kelly, who of course has been there for a good amount of his time in his career. Michael Soroka got a 1-year deal, and James McCann. Free agents they still got is Zach Gallen still out there. I think a team that's looking for pitching in the mid market. I'm still looking at a team like the Cubs. For Gallen or a team like Baltimore, the Yankees, I think, maybe that could be the Yankees kind of big thing because I still think there's a lot of guys in the Yankees starting rotation that have, whether it's arm issues or they might not be ready. The Mets, I definitely think could take a look at him. So Gallo definitely I think is a name that could definitely be a buy low candidate. Because I think he still has a lot of good stuff, but he wasn't great last year. Um, let's go to the Dodgers. I'll just kind of go through kind of the teams now at this point in time. The Dodgers. No, the Dodgers really haven't done a lot right now, but you never know. This is just kind of a team where they can be kind of in it, for a team, and a team doesn't budge, they're going for it. It's kind of that's kind of their thing. Um, their free agents right now are Conforto, Gonsolin, Andrew Heaney, Kike, Michael Kopech, Evan Phillips, and Cody Yates. They brought in Edwin Diaz. So they brought, of course, the best reliever out there in the market, and then Miguel Rojas, who was the Game 7 hero for the Dodgers, of course, with the homer.
Right.
Then the Giants, they make some stuff not crazy. Just Adrian Hauser, Sam Hedges, Jason Foley, Gregory Santos. Padres, they brought back Michael King. I really like that a lot for them on a 3-year deal. They also brought in another guy from the Japanese, and Sun Moon Son. I think he'll be playing second base for them, I'm pretty sure. Don't know a lot about him, but I think he's going to be good for them. And a couple other guys on 1-year deals for them. They did lose Dylan Cease and Suarez and Ryan O'Hearn. And then you got the Rockies, and there's really nothing too much to say about them.
No.
They suck. They're terrible. Really nothing you can really say about that. So that's kind of rounding up the NL West. I don't know if there's anything you want to kind of say with the West.
Padres to me are an interesting team. I think their GM, I think his name's AJ Preller. I still think he's going to make another move or two. In terms of what, I have no idea. It seems like they're trying to cut salary, also maybe sell the team. I heard rumors about the Padres. It seems like they're always going to chase the Dodgers and they'll never catch them. And then with the Dodgers, real quick, Diaz, why you went there? Simple, probably have a good vibe. It's like, what are your options? You go to the Mets, you got to get yelled at by the media, the fans, whatever else. Probably he's got some friends with the Dodgers. Says, come here. Manager's great. Vibe's great. We're winning up constantly. You just fit in like a glove and everything will be great for you.
Yeah, he also said, too, in his presser that, it was a tough choice between them and the Mets, but I think he basically said that he has a really good chance to win with the Dodgers. I mean, it's kind of the Kevin Durant route in terms of, ring chasing, but heck, he was with the Mets for a while, and, I think that he really liked being there in his time.
Yeah.
But I think he's just kind of looking at outlook with that team and just I have a chance to go somewhere out west, get my money, and have a chance to win it all. And I think that he definitely deserves it, of course, with him being one of the best guys out there. One of the best pitchers in baseball. So that is that. Really quick before we call it, because I was going to get into some of the World Baseball Classic stuff, but I probably think I'm going to wait until next episode. Because we are running a little bit out of time, but I just want to get in some comments really quickly here. Game Day Sports Card 01, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, my friend.
Merry Christmas.
And appreciate everybody that is watching, from people that are watching. If you guys have any comments here, we'll definitely read it really quickly before we wrap it up. But just want to quickly say to you, David, hopefully you have a good holiday.
Same to you.
And thank you. Obviously, we'll probably reconvene back next year in 2026. So like I said before, open up the show. I just want to thank everybody, all our viewers, on a great year. This, of course, has been awesome, and we can't really thank you guys enough for everything you guys have been doing. It's crazy. It really is crazy that, it's just another year goes by, and obviously, to do this, like I said, we can't do it without you guys. Can't do it without my other guy and Ryan and Dave. Like I said, we welcome you here, and hopefully we can have a chance to be with you for a lot of next year as well too. So that's awesome. But really quickly, any final thoughts we'd like to have, Dave, before we wrap it up?
No, I appreciate you guys welcoming me in, first of all. Everybody watches, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Just looking forward to free agency and everything picking up, and then leading right into spring training come the new year. It's a little bit quiet. It needs to pick up a little bit here. That's all.
Yeah. I think, I think by the time, I'd say in 2 to 3 weeks, if we get some other guys coming in like a Kyle Tucker or a Bo Bichette, we'll try to have another show, hopefully in early January. So
Right.
obviously kind of keep that on the loop for those, of course, that are watching right now. But time will tell, of course. We're going to try to just get through this whole entire holiday break and just enjoy with your family and your friends. And like I
Yes.
said, stay healthy, stay safe, and definitely let's try to kick it off for another year in 2026. So that'll
Absolutely.
do it. Thank you guys for watching another episode of Hitting for the Cycle. Like I mentioned before, make sure to, if you want to listen to us on the go at HFTCETB, also make sure to follow us on all of the socials. Like I said, right down here on the ticker bar down below. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. And then, of course, follow us on Hitting for the Cycle across social media everywhere. Of course, right down here on the ticker bar below at HFTCETB. That'll do it, everyone. Thank you guys for watching. Like I said, another edition of Hitting for the Cycle. We will be back next year. So hopefully we'll see you guys next year on another edition of Hitting for the Cycle for another year of the program. We're looking forward to it. But like I said, until next time, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever, of course, you guys are celebrating, and a great new year and a healthy, safe new year. And we will see you guys next time. Take care.
Take care.